Hi, everybody. Melanie asked me to record a few words and thoughts about my own experience with QEC, both as a practitioner and as a clinician and as somebody who has used it for their own personal development and transformation. So I'll do the best I can. My name's Paul. I'm a counselling psychologist. Working in the field of addictions and trauma and minor mental health issues. I have my own private practice, and I currently also attached to the Kushnat practice in Zurich, in Switzerland. So a few years ago, I came across teachings by Bruce Lipton and Dr. Joe Dispenza and others exploring quantum physics. And I was fascinated by, the new science in neuroplasticity, neurogenesis, epigenetics, and the quantum generally, and how that could, I became very, very interested in how that could perhaps help me shake off the sort of vague dissatisfactions I still had with life, despite all my efforts as a therapist. And also sort of, well, if it worked for me, how could I apply it in my practice? I experienced extraordinary results, I have to say, in my own life, and began to yearn to bring it into my own practice with my clients. And unfortunately, the way that I learned it, I'm an advanced student with Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I meditate a lot. So the way that I benefited from what I was learning was through meditation, entering a gamma state, basically. Well, learning how to monitor the speed of my brain waves and bring them down into alpha and then theta, and then, if I'm lucky, into gamma. So this took a lot of meditation, and I'd find that I try to apply it in my clinical sessions, and people would look at me with rather sort of bemused expressions, really wanting to, go along with what I was saying, but actually the meditation just wasn't going to cut it, generally speaking, with most of my clients, because not everyone likes meditation. I happen to love it. So I began to actively search out. So I thought there must be somebody here who is using this and applying it in a clinical setting. This new research, these new understandings that science was bringing. And what was fascinating for me was that this new science brings together, finally, science and the old spiritual teachings and sacred texts, etc., from centuries ago. So it was very interesting, very, very interesting in terms of personal transformation. Anyway, eventually I got told about curiously in Zurich, about Melanie, Dr. Melanie Salmon, and was advised get in contact with her. So I did, and the first step, very wisely, she said, well, look, why don't you, have a session and see how it goes? I had the session and I liked it. I liked it a lot. And then I went to do a training with her in Scotland. And I was struck by some different things about the training, which I then continued and am continuing online through the sessions she gives online. Now, I find her an extraordinary teacher, and I find her method very, very good because it's so practical. She introduces it with a level of that she distills science. So you're not, one would have to read through realms, really huge amount of content in order to take out what's necessary to know to develop, to bring this into a practice to help others. And I found that the content of QEC was distilled to a very simple degree. It covered everything that's necessary to know. One could always research more. And it was very, very easily and simply presented. The the learning of it was fun. Now, this was important for me because I study interactions between human beings. So I was very keen to see what the community of people around Melanie were doing, these people, other people who were practicing QEC. And I noticed that I'm going to talk about a word that's probably unfamiliar with a lot of people, but I experienced a lot of bliss, which I associate with a gamma state. When I was with them, for a week, I believe. And I just felt as if I was on a meditation retreat, though no one was doing any meditation. So there was something going on that definitely piqued my interest. And I learned the techniques. And during that week, part of the training is a course, and I think really rightly so. If I think anybody dealing with trauma in another human being needs to be fairly clear of trauma themselves. I just think that's such a prerequisite. So I was fascinated to revisit a lot of trauma that I had visited through talk therapy over the years several times, and thought I had done and dusted, and discovered actually the remnants were still there. And QEC, I found an extraordinary way to clear that trauma with help from, in my case, it was after Scotland was with Melanie herself. So I can I've noticed it's transformed my life very much, QEC. It's cleared something in me that I didn't quite know how to clear in my own meditations. It certainly gives me something to offer to my clients. And I find that the training methods are extremely accessible to just about anyone. Whether they be a clinician or somebody who's just interested in this field and would like to sort of use it one way or another. I mean, I have no idea, how other people would be using it in their lives. So I can thoroughly recommend QEC. I can recommend the training, the way it's presented. It's fun, it's simple, and it's very effective. And the world needs more of this approach, so that we're not only using that 5% of our conscious minds, but we're tapping into all those beliefs that we carry in our subconscious mind, which determines so much of our experience of life. So much better to clear it and put in good messages in the subconscious, so that we have in the background an operating system which isn't sabotaging our lives. And if we can help, in my case, as a clinician, other people do that, then I'm really doing my job, and it brings me a great deal of satisfaction. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. I'll finish now because I'll go on and on forever otherwise.